Sir, stop right there. We need to talk to you.
I need to get to my car. I'm freezing. I just pulled a child out of the water.
That's what we need to discuss.
What were you doing with that child in the water?
What was I doing? I was saving him. He was drowning!
The circumstances seem suspicious. Adult male alone near distressed children. We need clarification.
A man dives into freezing water to save a drowning child, performs CPR, brings him back to life, and gets arrested for it. This is Dennis Radford, 38 years old, 8 years United States Marine Corps, Purple Heart recipient, Navy Cross recommended, the man who held a position under enemy mortar fire for 9 hours in Helmand Province, current youth mentor and community volunteer, and Officer Brian Lewis just arrested him for the most heroic act imaginable, saving a 9-year-old boy from drowning in 48-degree water. Officer Lewis does not know it yet, but he has 17 prior complaints of racial profiling. 17 Black and Latino civilians who said Lewis targeted them without cause. 17 complaints that were dismissed by Internal Affairs as unsubstantiated or within department guidelines. And Dennis Radford is about to be the case that finally ends his career. When that body camera footage surfaces, when the child testifies, when Radford's military records are revealed, when Lewis's pattern of racist arrests is exposed, this wrongful detention is going to cost the city $6.2 million and prove that a pattern of abuse unaddressed becomes institutional liability. Leave a comment if you believe officers with documented patterns of bias should be fired before they arrest heroes. What you're about to hear is how courage became criminal accusation, how a child's words fought systemic prejudice, and how a decorated veteran had to prove his innocence for an act of pure heroism. Dennis Radford was 38 years old. His body told stories of service. 8 years in the United States Marine Corps, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, the infantry unit they send when the mission requires absolute resolve. He had deployed twice, Afghanistan twice, sergeant when he left active duty, and the medals they pinned on his chest were not for attendance. They were for blood and sacrifice and refusing to let brothers die. Purple Heart, Sanjin District, 2011. Dennis took shrapnel from an IED while pulling 2 wounded Marines from a burning Humvee. Bleeding from his abdomen and leg, still carried them both. Both lived because Dennis would not leave them. Navy Cross recommendation, Helmand Province, 2012. His squad was ambushed during a night patrol. Dennis held the position for 9 hours. Wounded twice. Out of ammunition. Used his rifle as a club when the rounds ran dry. Held until helicopters arrived. Saved 8 lives that day. Medically retired in 2014. Leg injury from the IED never fully healed. Too many surgeries. Too much metal in his body. But his need to serve did not end with military service. He became a youth mentor, worked with at-risk kids in Willow Creek, coached Little League, volunteered at the community center. 6 years of quiet service. Known for showing up when kids needed someone. Known for teaching them discipline and respect and how to believe in themselves. Officer Brian Lewis was 36 years old. 12 years with Willow Creek Police Department, and those 12 years had produced a record that should have ended his career years before he encountered Dennis Radford. 17 complaints filed against him. 14 from Black civilians. 3 from Latino civilians. Excessive force, unlawful detention, racial profiling, false arrest, harassment. Internal Affairs reviewed every complaint, and Internal Affairs dismissed 16. Marked, unsubstantiated, insufficient evidence. Officer acted within policy. 1 complaint resulted in a written warning. Not suspension, not retraining. A piece of paper in a file that nobody read. Those 17 complaints told a story. A barber arrested for loitering outside his own shop. A teacher detained for trespassing in his own classroom after hours. A paramedic questioned for vehicle theft while sitting in his clearly marked ambulance. A youth pastor arrested for suspicious presence at the church where he had worked for 12 years. A delivery driver stopped 8 times in 4 months for traffic violations that did not exist. A mother arrested for child abduction while picking up her son from daycare because Lewis did not believe the child was hers. All Black or Latino. All released without charges or with charges dismissed. All filed complaints. All told the same story. Officer Lewis sees people of color as suspicious by default. Officer Lewis arrests first and verifies never. Officer Lewis has a pattern, but patterns only matter when institutions choose to see them. And for 12 years, Willow Creek Police Department chose blindness. March 21st was cold, 39 degrees. Early spring pretending to be late winter. Willow Creek waterfront sat gray and unwelcoming under heavy clouds. Water temperature at 48 degrees. Cold enough to kill in minutes. Dennis had driven there for a jog. Day off. Needed to clear his head after a rough week with one of his ments. He wanted quiet, solitude. The kind of peace that comes from trails and water and no crises demanding his attention. He parked at 3:15 p.m., stretched, started jogging the shoreline path. The park was nearly empty. Too cold for families. Too early for evening walkers. Just Dennis, the wind, the water, and somewhere he could not yet see. A 9-year-old boy playing too close to water that did not forgive mistakes. Officer Brian Lewis was on patrol. Saw a car in the Willow Creek waterfront parking lot. On a day this cold, a car in an empty park meant something worth checking. Or at least that was the justification he would write later. He pulled in, decided to investigate, because investigating was what Lewis did. And when Lewis investigated black people, it usually ended in handcuffs. Dennis is half a mile down the trail when the sound reaches him. A child screaming. Not playing screaming. Screaming for life. The sound that stops hearts and starts legs moving. Help! Somebody help! He's in the water. Help! Dennis sprints 60 yards around a bend. And there at the water's edge stands a terrified woman. Tyler Chen's babysitter, frozen in panic, pointing at the lake where Tyler is 25 feet from shore, thrashing, going under. Surfacing for desperate gasps. Going under again. Tyler had been trying to retrieve a toy boat. Leaned too far over the edge. Fell into 15 feet of water that was 48 degrees. Cold shock hit him instantly. Hyperventilation. Disorientation. Panic. He cannot control his breathing, cannot coordinate his limbs. He is drowning 25 feet from shore. The babysitter cannot swim, cannot help, can only scream for someone to save the child she was responsible for. And the only someone within earshot is a black man running toward them. Dennis reaches the shore, sees Tyler going under, staying under, sees seconds evaporating. Does not think, does not hesitate. Does not consider the water is freezing or that he is alone or that this is dangerous. He kicks off his shoes while running, strips his jacket, hits the water in his jogging clothes. The cold is violence. 48-degree water feels like being stabbed with ice. His chest seizes. His breathing becomes involuntary gasping. But his training holds. His years of Marine Corps water survival training hold. Move. Swim. Get to the target. 25 feet through freezing water. His muscles stiffen. His strokes become clumsy. But he reaches Tyler just as the boy goes under for what would be the last time. Dennis grabs him, pulls him up. Tyler is limp, unconscious. Hypothermia shutting him down. Oxygen deprivation shutting him down. Dennis gets Tyler in a rescue hold. Swims back. His body is failing from cold, but he makes it. Drags Tyler onto the concrete walkway. The babysitter is standing there crying, shaking, terrified. Is he okay? Is Tyler okay? Dennis checks for pulse. Faint. Checks for breathing. None. Dennis begins chest compressions. 30 compressions. 2 rescue breaths. Counting. Focusing. He is back in a medevac helicopter doing this while the bird shakes from enemy fire. He is back at the community center last year doing this on a father who collapsed at his son's basketball game. He is back in his Marine training doing this on dummies that became real people in Helmand Province. 60 seconds. 90. 2 minutes. Tyler coughs, vomits water, gasps. Eyes flutter. Dennis rolls him to recovery position. You're okay. You're breathing. Stay still. The babysitter sobs with relief. You saved him. Oh my God. You saved him. Dennis looks at his hands, shaking violently from cold. He is soaking wet. Wind cutting through his wet clothes. He needs to get warm before hypothermia takes him too. He stands, starts walking toward the parking lot. Needs his car. Needs heat. Needs to survive this rescue. Officer Brian Lewis is walking the trail when he hears commotion. Not screaming anymore. Voices. Excitement. He walks toward the sound, rounds a bend, and sees exactly what 12 years of racial bias have trained him to see. A black man, soaking wet, kneeling beside a white child on the ground. A white woman standing nearby. The black man is touching the child. The child appears to be in distress. Lewis does not see rescue. He sees opportunity. Black man. White child. Physical contact. Deserted park. His pattern recognition activates. Suspicious. Potential crime. Another arrest. He activates his body camera. Approaches. Does not call for an ambulance. Does not ask what happened. He investigates. And when Brian Lewis investigates black people, he finds crimes whether they exist or not. By the time Lewis reaches them, other people are arriving, maybe 10 people from parking areas from other trails. They see a soaking wet man, a child recovering on the ground, a woman crying. Most understand immediately. A rescue. An emergency. A hero. Someone asks, "What happened?" The babysitter tells anyone who will listen. Tyler was drowning. This man saved him. He jumped in and saved him. A man pulls out his phone, calls 911. There's a child here who almost drowned. We need an ambulance. A woman approaches Dennis. Are you okay? You're shaking. You need to get warm. Dennis nods, teeth chattering. I need to get to my car. I'm freezing. He stands, starts toward the parking lot. The babysitter follows. Thank you for saving Tyler. Thank you so much. Dennis manages a smile despite the shaking. Make sure he gets to a hospital. Officer Lewis steps into Dennis's path. Hand on belt, near weapon, body language aggressive. Sir, stop right there. Police. We need to talk to you. Dennis stops, turns, sees a uniformed officer with an expression he recognizes. Not concern. Suspicion. accusation. The look Dennis has seen too many times in his 38 years of being black in America. I need to get to my car.
I'm freezing.
I just pulled a child out of the lake. Lewis's eyes scan Dennis. Black man soaking wet. Deserted park. White child. Every box in Lewis's mental checklist ticks. That's what we need to discuss. What were you doing with that child in the water? Dennis stares, processing the question. The implication behind it. What was I doing? I was saving him. He was drowning. I jumped in and performed a rescue. Officer Lewis pulls out his notepad, writes something. His body language says he does not believe Dennis. So you're saying you didn't know this child before today?
No.
I never saw this child before in my life. I was jogging in the park. I heard screaming. I saved a drowning child. And you just happened to be in this deserted area of the park when this child was here? Dennis feels it then, the shift. Officer Lewis is not treating him like a rescuer. He is treating him like a predator, like someone who sought out a child, like someone who did something to that child instead of saving him from death. And Dennis realizes something else. This officer wants to arrest him. This is not about verifying. This is about finding justification for an arrest already decided. Are you suggesting I did something wrong? I saved that child's life. We're investigating. An adult male alone in the water with a child in a deserted park requires investigation. Because he was drowning. Voices from the crowd. Louder, more insistent. Officer, that man pulled the kid out of the water. I saw it. The kid was drowning. He saved him. What are you doing? An ambulance is coming. This man performed CPR. But Brian Lewis has made his decision. And Brian Lewis's decisions when they involve black men tend toward arrest. Because that is the pattern. 17 times before. And the pattern defines him. Sir, turn around. Hands behind your back. You're being detained for investigation. Dennis cannot process this. Detained for what? Child endangerment. Suspicious contact with a minor. Unauthorized physical contact. Turn around. Endangerment? I performed CPR. I saved his life. Sir, don't make this difficult. The babysitter is screaming, crying, terrified. He didn't do anything wrong. He's a hero. He saved Tyler. But handcuffs are already coming out. Lewis grabs Dennis's arm. Still soaking wet. Still shaking from cold. Still in shock from the rescue. And now from being arrested for it. Lewis forces his arms behind his back. Cold metal closes around his wrists. Dennis Radford.
Décorated combat vétéran.
Purple Heart recipient. Youth mentor. The man who held a position under enemy fire for 9 hours in Helmand province. The man who just saved a 9-year-old boy from drowning. Under arrest. The babysitter is crying. The crowd is shouting. Someone yells, "This is wrong. He saved that child." And Officer Lewis reads Dennis his rights while Dennis stands there shaking from cold and disbelief and rage. You have the right to remain silent. Dennis looks at the crowd, looks at the babysitter, looks at Tyler, now being attended by bystanders. And he understands. He saved a child's life, and he is being arrested for it. Not because of what he did, because of who he is, and because Officer Brian Lewis has been doing this for 12 years, and nobody has ever stopped him. March 21st, 3:17 p.m. Tyler Chun was 9 years old and fearless in the way children are when they have not yet learned that the world can kill them. His toy sailboat drifted 6 feet from shore, red sails catching wind, moving farther into Willow Creek waterfront. His babysitter sat on a bench 30 yards away, scrolling through her phone, half watching, assuming the concrete walkway was safe enough. Tyler leaned over the edge, reaching. The boat was just beyond his fingertips. He stretched farther, one hand gripping the metal railing, the other extended over water that was 48 degrees and 15 feet deep. He leaned too far. His hand slipped. His body pitched forward. He hit the water face first. The cold was instant violence. Tyler gasped, inhaled water, panicked. His arms flailed. His legs kicked uselessly. He tried to scream but swallowed more water. He went under, surfaced, went under again. The babysitter looked up, saw empty railing, heard splashing. She ran to the edge, saw Tyler thrashing 25 feet out. She screamed. Half a mile down the trail, Dennis Radford heard it. That sound. The sound every soldier, every first responder, every person who has saved lives knows immediately. Not play, not excitement, terror. A child dying. Dennis ran. Dennis rounded the bend at full sprint. Saw the woman screaming, pointing at the water. Saw Tyler 25 feet out, going under, surfacing weakly, going under again. 3 seconds to process. His leg throbbed where the shrapnel still lived beneath scar tissue. The water was winter cold. He was alone. No backup. No safety line. No rescue equipment. He was 38 years old. Not 28. Not the Marine who could run 10 miles with a full pack anymore. The IED injury flared up in cold weather. Sometimes his leg just stopped working right. But a child was drowning. Dennis kicked off his shoes while running, stripped his jacket, hit the water without breaking stride. The cold was a fist closing around his chest. His lungs seized. His body screamed to get out, to breathe, to escape. 48-degree water does not ask permission. Takes. His muscles stiffened immediately. His strokes became sluggish, uncoordinated. But he swam. 25 feet felt like 100. His legs kicked through water that felt like concrete. His arms pulled through cold that burned like fire. He reached Tyler just as the boy went limp. Unconscious. Sinking. Dennis grabbed him, got him in a rescue hold, turned toward shore. Tyler's body was dead weight. Dennis's own body was failing. Hypothermia creeping in. Muscles cramping. But he swam. He made it. Dennis dragged Tyler onto the concrete walkway. The boy was limp, lips blue, not breathing. The babysitter stood frozen, hands over her mouth, paralyzed by terror. Dennis rolled Tyler onto his back. Checked airway. Checked pulse. Faint. Checked breathing. Nothing. His hands moved automatically. 8 years of Marine Corps combat lifesaver training. 2 tours where he did this for real, under fire, with brothers bleeding out. Muscle memory stronger than thought. 30 chest compressions. Hard and fast. 2 rescue breaths. Repeat. A crowd was forming now. Joggers. Dog walkers. People drawn by screaming. Someone shouted to call 911. Dennis kept counting. Kept compressing. Kept breathing for Tyler. 60 seconds. 90. 2 minutes. Tyler coughed. Vomited water. Gasped. His eyes fluttered open. Unfocused. Terrified. Dennis rolled him to recovery position. You're okay. You're breathing. Stay still. Tyler's voice came out as a whisper. You saved me. The babysitter collapsed beside them, sobbing, touching Tyler's face. Thank God. Oh, thank God. Dennis sat back on his heels, shaking violently now, cold radiating through his soaked clothes, his teeth chattering. He needed to get warm, needed his car, needed heat before hypothermia took him too. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Dennis started toward the parking lot. That was when Officer Brian Lewis arrived. Officer Brian Lewis walked the trail toward the commotion. Voices, crying. He rounded the bend and his eyes scanned the scene with 12 years of pattern recognition. Black man, soaking wet, standing over white child on ground. White woman crying nearby. Child in distress. Every box in Lewis's mental checklist ticked. Suspicious. His hand moved toward his radio. This was what Brian Lewis did. What he had done 17 times before in 12 years. The barber outside his own shop. Arrested for loitering. Charges dismissed. The teacher in his own classroom. Detained for trespassing. Complaint filed. Marked unsubstantiated. The paramedic in his own ambulance. Questioned for vehicle theft. Internal affairs reviewed. Insufficient evidence of misconduct. The youth pastor at his own church. Arrested for suspicious presence. Lawsuit threatened. Settled quietly. Written warning issued. Filed away. The delivery driver stopped 8 times in 4 months. 8 complaints. 8 dismissed. Officer acted within policy. The mother with her own son. Arrested for child abduction. Charges dropped within an hour. Complaint filed. Dismissed. Complainant failed to follow up. 17 complaints. 14 black civilians. 3 Latino. All released. All complained. All dismissed. Pattern recognized by everyone except the department that employed him. Lewis activated his body camera. Advanced toward the black man who was now walking away from the child. Standard procedure. Investigate suspicious circumstances. When Brian Lewis investigated black people, he found crimes whether they existed or not. Sir, stop right there. Police. We need to talk to you. Dennis turned. Saw the uniform. Saw the expression. Suspicion, not concern. I need to get to my car.
I'm freezing.
I just pulled a child out of the lake. That's what we need to discuss. What were you doing with that child in the water? The question landed like a slap. Dennis stared, processing the implication. I was saving him. He was drowning. Lewis pulled out his notepad. So you didn't know this child before today?
No.
I heard screaming. I jumped in. I saved his life. Turn around. Hands behind your back. You're being detained for investigation. Detained for what? Child endangerment. Suspicious contact with a minor. Unauthorized rescue attempt. Failure to wait for proper authorities. The babysitter screamed. He didn't do anything wrong. He saved Tyler. The crowd erupted. This is insane. He's a hero. What are you doing? But Lewis grabbed Dennis's arm, forced it behind his back. Cold metal closed around his wrists. Click, click. Dennis Radford, Purple Heart recipient, youth mentor, hero, under arrest. Lewis walked him to the patrol car, opened the back door, guided him inside. Dennis sat shivering, soaking wet, handcuffed, watching the crowd through the window, watching Tyler being loaded into an ambulance he would never ride in. The door slammed shut. Detective Sarah Morrison entered the interrogation room at 5:47 p.m. Dennis had been sitting there for 2 hours, still in wet clothes, still shivering, still handcuffed to the table. They had given him a blanket, not kindness, procedure. Morrison sat down, opened a folder. Mr. Radford, I need you to walk me through what happened today. I saved a drowning child. Let's start earlier. Why were you at Willow Creek waterfront? I was jogging. Why that location specifically? Dennis stared at her. It's a public park. I go there sometimes. Do you go there often? Sometimes. Have you seen children there before? The implication crystallized. Dennis felt something cold settle in his chest that had nothing to do with hypothermia. What are you asking me? Have you had prior contact with Tyler Chin?
No.
I never saw that child before in my life. You approached him in the water. He was drowning. Do you often approach children you don't know? I'm a youth mentor. I work with kids at the community center. Morrison wrote something. So you have regular contact with children. Dennis's voice rose. I saved that child's life. I'm a Marine. I have a Purple Heart. I've saved lives under enemy fire. Morrison looked up, expression unchanged. That's not what we're investigating, Mr. Radford. Tyler Chun sat in the victim advocacy room, his mother beside him, a camera recording. He was wrapped in blankets from the hospital, still pale, still shaken. Detective Morrison asked gently, Tyler, can you tell us what happened at the waterfront? Tyler's voice was small. My boat went in the water. I tried to get it. I fell in. And then what happened? I couldn't breathe. The water was so cold. I went under. I thought I was going to die. And the man who pulled you out? Tyler's eyes filled with tears. He saved me. He jumped in and he saved my life. And then the police took him away in handcuffs. He started crying. Why did they arrest him? He saved me. He's a hero. Morrison closed her notebook. Outside the room, witness statements piled up. Margaret Torres, 67, grandmother. I saw the whole thing. That man risked his life. It was clearly a rescue. James Mitchell, high school teacher. The hero saved a drowning child and got arrested for it. This is outrageous. 3 teenagers all recorded the same story. The drowning, the rescue, the injustice. Officer Lewis's initial report mentioned none of them. His report said, subject found in suspicious contact with minor. Circumstances warranted detention. 17 witnesses. 1 narrative. Lewis chose the other one. Attorney Marcus Williams received the internal affairs file on Officer Brian Lewis through legal discovery. 847 pages. 12 years of employment records. He read through the night. Complaint 1, 2013. Excessive force against black male. Dismissed. Investigating supervisor, Captain Raymond Hayes.
Complaint 3, 2014. Unlawful detention, Latino male.
Unsubstantiated. Supervisor, Lieutenant David Chun. Complaint 7, 2016. Racial profiling, black male. Insufficient evidence. Supervisor, Sergeant Michael Torres. 17 complaints. 14 involving black men. 3 involving Latino men. 0 involving white civilians. Dismissed by the same 3 supervisors. Hayes, Chin, Torres, all still employed, all still supervising. The pattern was documented, ignored, protected. Williams opened the second file. Dennis Radford's military service record. Purple Heart, Sanjin District, 2011. ID attack. Saved 2 Marines while wounded. Navy Cross recommendation, Helmand Province, 2012. Held position under enemy fire for 9 hours. Saved 8 lives. Recommendation downgraded to Bronze Star due to administrative review, but the citation remained extraordinary heroism in combat. Commendation from Major General Robert Martinez. Sergeant Radford represents the finest traditions of the Marine Corps. 6 years of community service after discharge. Youth mentor. Volunteer coach. Character references from 12 families. Williams closed the files. They arrested a decorated war hero for saving a child's life. This was institutional liability wrapped in a badge. Williams filed the lawsuit April 3rd. Federal civil rights violation. Wrongful arrest. Racial discrimination. Institutional negligence. Named defendants. Officer Brian Lewis, Captain Raymond Hayes, Lieutenant David Chun, Sergeant Michael Torres, Willow Creek Police Department. The body camera footage leaked April 5th. Dennis soaking wet, shivering, saving a child's life. Lewis arresting him anyway. The babysitter screaming, "He's a hero." The media firestorm ignited immediately. City Council called emergency session April 8th. Packed chambers. Protesters outside. Tyler Chen's mother testified. 17 civilians who had filed complaints against Lewis testified. Dennis's Marine Corps commander flew in from Virginia, testified about Dennis's valor under fire. The city attorney advised settlement. June 12th. $6.2 million. Mandatory reforms. Independent Oversight Board for bias complaints. Body cameras required. Footage publicly accessible. Termination of Officer Brian Lewis effective immediately. Forced retirement of Captain Raymond Hayes. Retraining for Chun and Torres. Dennis stood at Willow Creek waterfront September 3rd. 6 months after. Tyler Chun played near the water, his mother watching closely this time. Tyler saw Dennis, ran over, hugged him. "Hi, Mr. Radford." Dile. Staying away from the edge. "Yes, sir." Dennis watched him run back. $6.2 million. Reforms. Terminations. Justice, they called it. But Dennis still remembered the cold. The handcuffs. The interrogation. Having to prove his humanity. Justice shouldn't require fighting to be seen as human. But here it did. So here's my question for you. Should a city spend more protecting an officer like Walsh despite 14 complaints? Should officers who dismiss legitimate complaints face criminal charges? And should there be a federal database tracking patterns of misconduct? Let me know what you think in the comments. I read them. This story reminds us that even military service, even a Purple Heart, even saving a life, can't always shield someone from racist policing. But it also shows that patterns can be exposed, accountability can be demanded, and speaking up matters. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.